Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, President Rodrigo Duterte tells China, do not touch Pag-asa Island.
I will not plead or beg, but I'm just telling you that lay off the Pag-asa because may mga sundalo ako dyan. At pag yan ang ginalaw ninyo, ibang istorya na yan.
Following reports of hundreds of Chinese vessels near the disputed area.
The presence of Chinese vessels near and around Pag-asa and other maritime features in the KIG is illegal.
But China insists they have the right to go near Pag-asa.
They're fishing there. They must be fishermen.
And claiming Spratly Islands part of Chinese territory.
So far as I know, they are not armed at all.
But how can the Philippines make the Chinese vessels go away? Will diplomatic protests be enough? Live and exclusive, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr. joins us in the program. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Malacanang insists that the Duterte administration is not shelving the arbitral ruling that empowers Philippine claims against China in the West Philippine Sea. In a briefing, presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo says that the president has been invoking the Hague victory in his pronouncements against China. He says this is clear in the president's remarks, saying China and their hundreds of vessels should steer clear of Pag-asa Island. The Foreign Affairs Department already called the presence of these vessels near Pag-asa Island as illegal, but China insists that they have fishing rights in the area, and these rights should not be, quote, challenged. The DFA already sent a number of diplomatic protests or notes verbal against Beijing, but the question lingers, will China act on it? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have him live, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr., SFA. Good to see you again. I hope you're well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very busy?
Come quiet.
You know, yesterday, Malacanang was saying that the president invoked the Hague ruling in the South China Sea. This is coming from presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo. And when reporters were probing him, he said, this happened when he effectively invoked the Hague ruling, when he announced on live television to lay off Pag-asa Island. Would you say that is invoking the Hague ruling?
Absolutely. But please, you should not say the Hague ruling against China, because the reason we won that, is it was the experts told me who had a hand in the victory, was that the geniuses behind that, Carpio, the lawyers we brought, the German lawyer and the others, they limited the question to very few. Describe what are those features in the South China Sea. Rocks. Maybe it will have 12 nautical miles, or if it goes underwater, zero nautical miles, and then none of them are natural islands, so no economic zone, which China wants to turn into an island, but apparently it's naturally occurring islands. So all of that was just laid out in a way that when China inadvertently brought up the Hague ruling, because when I was in the UN, I said, don't bring it up. Don't challenge it. And I won't say anything. But you don't say anything either. I was already SFA, and somebody brought it up. And so I sent a right of reply, and the right of reply said, this is a victory for international law. It is also a victory for China, because one day China may have features that it wants to call its own, and it can use the Hague ruling.
So the Hague ruling on the South China Sea, to be clear, invalidating the claim of China on the 9-dash line.
It ignored it. You cannot say invalidates.
But that's the word they use,
every state
invalidated the 9-dash line.
Every state has the right to say what they think is theirs. The difference is that when we make that claim about the South China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea as we have called it, we're backed up by the arbitral ruling in the Hague. Theirs is not. Theirs is backed up by
historical
history.
Rights. Yeah.
I made a comment about that before. That's really something that you are invoking islands you just created a few days ago as belonging to China from time immemorial. That's really good. Time traveling.
Secretary, if the president, so you agree that the president
But it's
invoked...
their right to say what they want.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
I'll go there because they did say that. If the president invoked the Hague ruling because of him saying lay off Pag-asa Island, just in your time as SFA, how many times do you think the president has invoked the Hague ruling? Why? I ask you that because there's confusion there, sir, because the president said many times in the past that he will not bring it up until the right time comes.
That's right,
So,
yeah.
and then Secretary Panelo yesterday saying that the president actually
That's
invoked
right.
the Hague
Well,
ruling.
it's the president's prerogative. I'm under him. In fact, I'm just his alter ego, and he decides this is the right time to do it.
So is this the
to
first
mention
time?
it.
Would you
know.
say?
I don't know. But he's never denied that ruling because I have invoked it in the UN, and I am his delegate in the UN.
What is the implication if indeed you agree, Secretary Panelo saying that the president invoked the Hague ruling? What's the implication of that, sir? If
Well,
any-
it's... I don't know what the implication of that is. We've stated what's there all along. Sometimes to proceed beyond the Hague ruling and to see, as I told both the Global Times, the People's Liberation Army news organ, and the Chinese, when I always tell them, you know, we will never surrender an inch of those reefs. Never. That will never happen. But that's no reason why we cannot go around that issue for now and see where we can cooperate to a mutual benefit.
That's where I wanted to go because the president, now you're both agreeing that the president invoked the Hague ruling, and in a tweet you said, now is not the right time to bring up
That's
the
right.
issue on the South China Sea. This is a tweet of yours among a number of them. So it's a little bit confusing. The president invoked it, and then you're saying that it's not the right time
No.
to bring up the issue on the South China Sea.
That was in reaction to a man, the comments of Ambassador of Secretary Del Rosario,
Albert Del Rosario.
who said, now is the time to negotiate. Now is the time to negotiate. And that's really good. And the headline of the Inquirer was correct. China said, this is ours, let's negotiate. Before, it's ours and nothing. Now they say, let's negotiate. And Del Rosario said, now is the time. And I said, no, now is not the time. Now is not the time because now both sides are hot under the collar and it's a pissing contest. Who
Yeah.
can piss higher than the other guy?
And
You can't talk to people who are doing that. I wouldn't talk to me when I'm angry.
it's as if it's ego versus ego.
Ego versus ego, and then later you'll be regretting what you say. So, okay, let's wait until things cool down and then say, how do we live with this?
How
Because
do we live with this?
Well, we can negotiate. There are different options, which I won't mention because then you give it up once you mention it before you're ready to sit down.
Okay, I understand that. Okay, but
So, well, I say, let's talk about this when both are cooler and see if we can move further. Remember, I read the American analysis. They are our only military allies, and they say, basically, this is salami tactics. They take little things which are not sufficient really as causes of war. They're not really aggression under the UN definition, but you take a little, then one day, there's so many slices, and they actually took the whole Bologna. But when does that happen? In the meantime, see if you can talk to each other, stop. But the president said, okay, when it comes to Pag-asa, please don't try to take that slice.
you know, we are going to talk about Pag-asa Island. We're going to talk about Scarborough Shoal as well. But it's been questioned many, many times. Let's go to Pag-asa first, SFA, so we don't confuse the other parts. So the military is saying, Western Command is saying there were about 275 fishing vessels,
right,
or Chinese militia. Okay, Chinese militia fishing vessels in and around Pag-asa Island
right.
in the first 3 months of 2019. DFA is already saying it's illegal.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
What have you done regarding Pag-asa Island? Have you filed diplomatic protests, diplomatic notes, notes verbal?
Yes, we've done all of that, and I did that specifically before going to China because I thought it is the height of bad manners to go to a country, receive all the welcome that they accord to a visiting dignitary, and then come back and fire off the note. So
Yeah. You did it
first
before.
I did it before. Now you know where I'm coming from. If you want to welcome me, fine.
If you
you
don't,
that's also fine.
But this needs to be found out, sir. What did you file? Is there a difference?
Notes
a diplomatic
verbal?
notes
Well,
verbal. Okay. And this is just on Pag-asa. First, we're talking about Pag-asa first,
well,
sir.
how many did I send? I can't remember them all. Every incident reported to me by the task force of the armed forces is the subject of a note that I send out. That's
So you've been
automatic.
sending out notes
Yes,
verbal?
yeah. I just don't want to make a fuss about it because, one, it's supposed to be between us. And if should it ever come to a foreign tribunal, then I can say we never yielded, we never consented by silence.
You never acquiesced, yeah?
Silence gives consent.
Yeah.
We touch it. Consentire videto.
Sir, if you're talking about each time you were given a report on incursions in the South China Sea, how many notes verbal have you issued
I can't
since you
remember.
sat? I mean, what, sir, 10, 15?
Somebody has to tell me that because the minute I get a report, I said fire off one, fire off two, and then I guess
You have a good memory,
on the way
sir.
to China, no, not. I'm old already.
Would you say at least you fired off 10?
Oh yeah, the 10 is a modest sum.
Okay, so here's the next question, sir. If you issued at least 10 notes verbal, what was the reaction, if any, of China?
We haven't gotten a reaction yet, as far as I know. But they do tell me, why did you do that? Well, why did you do that? That's why we're firing off these notes.
Who tells you why did you do that?
Their foreign ministry tells me.
Okay.
And this is why. And our foreign ministry tells them.
Does that become a little uncomfortable?
Well, no, it doesn't become uncomfortable, but it's really strange that the guy who said, I don't believe in notes verbal because it's like throwing pieces of paper against a brick wall. I prefer personal confrontations, which I did in the UN. Well, I'm no longer in the UN, so I
Yeah.
cannot stand up and deliver personal, responses to their actions. So now I'm with notes verbal.
Okay, I wanted to bring
But
this in.
it keeps it shows that we are keeping our claims, our legal rights vibrant. Although I was also told by experts that even if you had kept quiet, that never goes away, because the Hague Tribunal decision is no longer about the Philippines. It is now a part of international law.
But is the Hague Tribunal ruling, was that shelved? How would you describe the Philippines' action or inaction on the Hague ruling? Because SFA Del Rosario, ex-Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario, saying it's time to unshelf it.
Well, that's his that's his choice of words. But I never shelved it, and I'm in the UN. That's the forum. From the Hague, you move to the UN, and I never shelved it.
Because that's
Because,
when you said
every
we will
time they
never
would-
abandon.
Yeah, no, it wasn't only that. When we tried to raise it, I remember I was told, no, don't bring it up, don't bring it up, and I had this statement, and then by some mysterious reason, Vietnam had the same statement as me. Vietnam delivers it. China says right of reply, and I said, you reply to Vietnam. It better not offend me. Because it sounds like mine. And then they said,
It's very similar.
yeah, very similar. And they said, but you do that, then I will stand up and read the statement. And then what they did is they gave a very diplomatic and very beautiful statement about the seas in general. So you can come up with a good compromise.
Secretary, how would you describe the Chinese vessels in and out of Pag-asa Island, sir?
Well,
What
I'll
is
tell
that?
one is sometimes you get reports which they say, one is they're not in uniform, two, they are Chinese vessels,
They're Chinese
three,
militias.
they are, it's true, the Hague ruling says traditional fishing is allowed. Well, what about allowing us? Since the Chinese are invoking traditional fishing is allowed, well, what about us? We're also traditional fishing.
Yeah.
And they'll say, we're there thousands of years ago. With apparently, there's a new book by Philip Bowring on the Empire of the Seas. And it seems like we were there
Ahead of them?
way ahead.
Okay.
They call it Nusantaria, an empire of Samoans, Filipinos, whatever you call them now. So we're all there.
Do you want them out of the vicinity of Pag-asa Island as Foreign Affairs Chief, sir?
Yes, we already have a well, it's up to them to take the risk. We have military personnel there. And one of the causes for triggering the Mutual Defense Treaty is not an invasion. Okay, you can interpret an invasion of the metropolitan territory, an attack on Manila. That's one.
Yeah.
The other one is end an attack on any vessel, military vessel of the Philippines. What if they make a mistake? That triggers it.
But here's the thing, sir.
Why do you want to fight over a reef? As I told the Chinese, you know that reef? That's worthless for any purpose, including military. And I said this in Yale, because in American military strategy in the modern world, a stationary weapons platform, that's what it's called, is the worst thing you can have. Because in 3 minutes, the Americans can destroy it and turn it to glass. Now, what did you achieve by that? Before that, China, everybody wanted to be friends of China because of its enormous progress, no question. 600 million turned into a middle class. Unbelievable infrastructure projects, the new airport that they're doing, which the reason for one of my retweets. All of that they wanted to be part of. And why not? That's why I said to the Chinese when they said, can we discuss the Belt and Road? And Wang Yi was, and I said, no, I refuse to discuss it. Instead, I will sign it. We are now part of Belt and Road. Why will we give all of that for a pebble in the ocean? Then I told the Global Times, you know the problem with that pebble? It's in the middle of a wide highway of cooperation. It's just there. But if you stumble on it, everything ends. You know why? National honor is inside that pebble.
And what I wanted to find out with your notes verbal, Secretary, is what's in it? What does it say? Do you say, before we go on a break, do you say something to the effect that we are protesting the presence of vessels of the Republic, People's Republic?
Yeah.
How, could you just give me...
Well, I can't really remember the exact words. This is done by our legal team
Okay.
in the DFA.
But the message is what?
The
That
message is what you're
there a
doing
word-
is, in our point of view, illegal. And illegal, improper, and certainly against the spirit of any agreement we have made. One is, okay, so it's already a fact that you have taken the Scarborough because the Americans fooled us there when they told us to back off. We did, China did not, and then Obama said, oh, well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a fact. But please, the agreement is don't move to other islands. And now they swarm around Pag-asa. The question is, oh yeah, they're not in uniform. Please, it's already a settled ruling. This is why in other countries, like when Ukraine was invaded, not by uniformed Russian troops, but by people in leather jackets and motorcycles.
Okay.
Well, when that happens, they come into a country. The country from which they came must disown it. If they don't disown it, then that country adopts their aggressive
That it's
tactics.
theirs. All right, we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up, if we can't go to war, what else can the government do in resolving the South China Sea dispute? Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr.
Proposing a draft that first all of those who are hot under the collar and critical of our foreign policy should be drafted in what the Soviets used to call P battalions. I call them patriotic.
We'll be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr. I have so many questions. You keep saying that as UN ambassador, you brought up the Hague ruling. As DFA Secretary, have you brought up the Hague ruling?
Yeah, I brought it up, and I brought it up, as I said, I think the best explanation I did was in an interview with the Global Times, which then I had it transcribed. I gave one to Ambassador Zhao. I sent one to Beijing, so you know everything. And my position there is...
What did they say, sir?
What did
When you sent
what's
the
important is what I
statement
said. Well, they received it, and they said, well, they understand. I think they respect my position. They said, this is a matter of honor, and really, the swarming of vessels before a national election, you're asking for a national reaction.
If you're saying that they respected SFA, with all due respect, I need to bring this in. If we talk about Pag-asa Island still, we're still sticking to that. You have China's foreign ministry spokesman who says this: the Nansha Islands are China's territory, which is backed by sufficient historical and jurisprudential evidence. Coming from China's foreign ministry spokesman, Lu Kang, he told reporters that in Beijing. He says it's theirs.
Absolutely.
So why will they leave?
Well, that's their problem. Okay, he says it's theirs. You know, we may have different views about what kind of society China is in the Philippines, but we know we're democratic. But in the world, in the society, in the community of nations, it's a democracy. And they can say what they want.
Okay.
The question is, we say, no, it's ours.
Yes. So
they say history, we say law.
Yeah, we say...
The law.
The law. We
Yeah.
say the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Sir, we were talking about the note verbal, just to
No,
finish.
it's more than that.
Notes verbal.
The UN clause
Yeah,
says that historical claims are already out of the table.
Okay, so notes verbal, just want to go back to that. During the break, we were saying that you say okay, China, this is illegal. Do you also say, China, please withdraw your
Yes,
fishing
yeah.
vessels out of Pag-asa Island?
Just like we said on the clams, stop that, and we're going to take legal action for the damage to the clams.
Yeah, that's also an exclusive by ABS-CBN. I want to get to that a little later. So you say that. So you say, withdraw your vessels. And what do they say? Have they answered?
So far, I have not heard of any answer.
So how should we address the situation now? So notes verbal were sent. You said, please leave. They said, no, Nansha Islands, Prati Islands is ours. What now?
Well, we wait them out. They wait us out because we're not stopping.
But, Secretary, how do you feel that we waited
I
out?
don't want to go into actual developments because, well, I guess the public's right to know. In some cases, similar to that, in Venezuela, claiming waters of Guyana, etc., and one or two other places, the foreign community said nothing, and the United States said nothing.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want that to be used and said, well, they said nothing in those cases. What's the difference between China claiming this and Venezuela claiming that? There's no protest from the world except from Guyana. And now, just because it's us Chinese doing it, there's protests all over the world. Is there an answer to that? No. I really don't like the selectiveness. And that's why I believe one of the reasons I would get angry in the UN is when they would say, no, on a universal principle, we vote the wrong way because we want to make friends with the wrong guys. I said, yeah, but what happens one day when we are the victims?
Yeah.
That's why I don't like that. I wish the United States had put its foot down on the Venezuelan takeover.
Secretary, if you have fired off notes verbal, what else can be done? What else can we do?
Well, we can turn more to our only military ally. By the way, when I say an only military ally, and I've explained it also to them, to the Chinese defense newspaper, I said, it is only logical that if you are a country here, your military ally must be all the way here with the power to project instantly here against this area. You can never be an ally of the guy next to you, especially if he's bigger than you, because he's just one step away from invading you. Our next possible military ally would be Russia. Russia is far away and behind China's back. But it's just a principle of, it's like asking Poland in 1936 to strike a mutual defense treaty with Germany.
So what are you saying? What should we do? Apart from the notes verbal, we
refine our and get clearer understanding with our only military ally. What happens if this actually escalates into a clear act of aggression?
And our only military ally is?
The United States.
Okay.
It cannot be any others. You cannot even imagine any others.
And didn't you also say in a tweet that their capability or sophistication is like world class?
World class. According to one book, Why the West Rules for Now.
I told you your memory is
Yes.
good.
About 500 years ahead of the rest of the world in military power and technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Secretary, I'm going to leave Pag-asa because we have to go to Scarborough Shoal, an ABS-CBN exclusive. As you mentioned a while ago, it was already shown, harvesting of giant clams in Scarborough Shoal.
And destruction of coral.
Okay.
To build it.
You said, let's look at that tweet of yours. You said that we fired a protest and we will take legal action on this. What is the, please explain to me, what is the protest and what legal action can you take?
We protested, we took the substance, the report of the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea, and we said this is verified by us. We protest this is illegal, and in fact, you're also violating conventions on environmental protection, which is for which we can take legal action.
What kind of legal action can be taken,
You'll have to ask my
Secretary?
OTLA. You invite Ed Malaya here. I cannot know everything.
So we don't know exactly what legal action can be taken.
We do, in the department.
But you are not telling me.
I have not. No, it's not that.
Oh, you're
They're
still
gonna study it. They're studying it.
the possibility.
Yeah.
But how do you feel, before we go on a break, seeing something like that, sir? You know, the fishermen apparently couldn't fish dahil sobrang labo na daw ng tubig because of the...
Okay, that's what it is. So they have basically destroyed breeding grounds. And now, and this makes me angry also and suspicious when people say, well, now China is saying that we are, and they really have the resources, pouring in resources in the areas that, of Scarborough to revive the coral. And I'm asked, that's also my question. And, well, you know, we're going to revive it, and still ours, number one. Number two, it doesn't erase the fact that you wouldn't have had to revive it if you hadn't killed it in the first place.
All right, but a protest was already issued.
The protest
been
been
done.
issued and done.
Okay, we're waiting.
Nothing has escaped a protest.
We'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr. We need a clarification on this, sir. You said that you invoked the Hague ruling as SFA. Do you remember when you first did it?
I was doing it since UN. I can't remember exactly when, but
No,
I've never
but you
wavered.
were ambassador as SFA, sir.
Ambassador. That really counts for something.
Of
I mean,
course.
I'm personally,
No, but we've turned
I'm
over
personally
to
in the UN challenging them.
Yeah,
That's
but
really
as
nasty.
Secretary of Foreign Affairs, do you remember what triggered it?
Actually, it wasn't even triggered. I just asserted it as a matter of fact. Oh, Wang Yi came over. He was very nice about it, and he was saying about the MOU on oil, the MOU on Belt and Road, and I surprised him because it's really controversial. The Americans don't want us to join the Belt and Road. They also didn't want us to join the AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Development Bank, until we woke up one day. The whole world joined. All of the Western allies, the American allies, all joined the bank. We did not. We're the last ones. I hope they accept us.
So that was the time you
And
remember.
then when he said, can I? And I said, on the Belt and Road, I refused to discuss it. I'll sign it instead.
Yeah.
He was really surprised. So I signed it right there and then. And then on the MOU, let me tell you this, there is no reason why we cannot go around our differences to cooperate in mutually beneficial ventures. However, on those differences, we will never yield an inch of what is ours.
That was when you...
But may not that actually, but probably the second, third time. But I brought it up. Yeah. It wasn't even provoked by anything.
Yeah.
Because it's just a statement of policy.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, anyway.
But is it in paper? When
Oh,
you actually
Jesus, it's in every paper.
No, when you say that you invoke the Hague ruling, do you actually put it in the notes verbal, invoking the Permanent Court of Arbitration
Yes, it's
ruling
there.
of 20? It's said in...
Of course, we mean it like pretend it's not there. That will never happen because the culture in the Department of Foreign Affairs is really very legalistic.
Okay.
And it is a part of them. When there was when it was being downplayed, it wasn't taken well in the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Okay. All right. We will say thank you to SFA for now, but we will continue our discussion live on Facebook. We're still going to talk about a number of things, including, very important, of course, Secretary, what's happening in Tripoli, Libya right now. We'd like to thank you for joining us here on The Source. We'd like to thank Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddyboy Locsin Jr. Always a pleasure to have you, sir, but we'll still continue interviewing him after the break. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb.